Morning. Hope you guys are all doing all right. So, just to give you a rundown of what we're doing this week and a little wrap up on notes, okay, regarding the Reformations that took place in Europe during the 16th century. And I guess you could argue maybe even going into the 17th century a bit. So, what you're going to do is you're going to use this video and the PowerPoint I'm going to give you guys to fill in the last column of the chart that we didn't take care of yet. Right, so you guys completed all this here, right? So we're filling in that last column. And then your no quiz this week, no discussion board this week. What I'm choosing to do instead, and this could take up the majority of your time, is kind of like a little mini project. So what you're going to do is this could be something based on the Reformation, it could be something based on the Renaissance, but basically you're going to choose 4 different types of projects, one of 4 different types of projects that centers around maybe a person or event that took place during the Renaissance or Reformation period, and use that as your focus for your project. So you have a few options. So your first option, option A, is to create a presentation. So you could do this using things like PowerPoint or a presentation. I do have some requirements you see there, but it's basically comparing and contrasting 2 individuals. So you compare and contrast like someone from the Renaissance Reformation period. I gave you the example of like someone like Da Vinci with someone whom of this time who's a big deal that you think could be a good comparison. So I said Jay-Z. Then you have the choice of a rap or a rhyme. Right, so if you like to write, this is a nice choice for you. So you can write out a rap or a poem, right, a rhyme. I'll talk about that one again in a moment. But you can do that based on anything. It could just be about the Reformation, about the Renaissance, about certain individuals. Again, as long as it's related to those periods and has specific information, you're good. Which I will also say that not only can you use our class notes to help you with this project, but online resources are allowed for this assignment as long as you know you're putting things into your own words, obviously, which I think no matter what you're kind of forced to do. You could also create an interview, right? So you could write out like a pretend interview you would have, like say, with someone from the Renaissance Reformation period. Right, I have certain requirements there for that, as far as length and number of questions. And the last one you see there is a comic strip. Right, I know many of us are really, really artistically inclined. I've seen a lot of good work from you guys. I think this would be an excellent option. I would love to see some comic strips too. Now you could do these by hand, just using paper, and then just taking pictures and sending them for your project. If you're familiar with some digital tools and you want to create a comic strip that way, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Okay, so how I'm going to grade you guys is basically, as long as you meet my requirements, it's organized, neat, little to no errors. I think you guys have seen, based on past projects, that you guys have been getting pretty good grades, as long as you meet all my required elements, right? So this counts as a 25-point test grade, and late projects will be penalized. So just keep that in mind, okay? Now, there is an option for also bonus. So, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Flipgrid, but Flipgrid is online, a video presentation tool. It's an app, but there's also a website you could access. Don't need to create an account. But for bonus points, what I'm saying is if you want to do a little Flipgrid video presenting yourself, there will be an example of mine up there, which you might find humorous. But yeah, if you present yourself, maybe like 1 to 3 minutes, just going over your project. So if it's rap rhyme, present your rap or rhyme, actually say it. If it's, if you did a comic strip, then you're maybe showing some images of your comic strip, right? Or if you did a PowerPoint presentation, you don't have to maybe go through the whole presentation, but just talk about the things that you found that were similar and different between the two people. Now, if you don't like your face being shown, I will allow you to not have your face shown, because I know some of us might not like that. So I will leave that up to you. Okay? Any other questions, always email me. So, last little bit. Okay, we're talking about the Catholic Counter-Reformation. Okay, so you had all these people protesting, going against the Catholic Church. Well, what's the Catholic Church got to say about all of it, right? So the Catholic Counter-Reformation was their counter, or their argument, against basically everything that was being said about them. And what happens, which I guess you could say is a good thing, is that it actually did force the Catholic Church to reform, or to have to make changes, right? Because obviously people were not happy with how things were going. So all this takes place under the Pope Paul III, which you see here. Basically, they want to win back followers, because even though Catholicism was still the majority faith, they had lost followers, right? So how do you get people to continue following, be practitioners of the Catholic Church? So in the Council of Trent, basically he makes some of these changes. They end the selling of indulgences, right, which was a big gripe, especially for people like Martin Luther. They try to make it so that there's less corruption. They don't sell church positions anymore. That's a good thing, right? So trying to put the end to the abuses that the church was doing. They set up an inquisition, which they basically put people on trial. Really wasn't the greatest thing, because if you're considered a heretic, you were burned at the stake, as you know. That's what happened to heretics. And they really wanted a more educated clergy, right? We saw the clergy, especially when we saw that video of Luther in Rome, right? Were not being very religious, were they, right? So the impact this does is, because they had the Counter-Reformation, this is what allows Catholicism to be the majority religion of Europe. Now, not only did they make changes, but how do you get new converts? So during this period, we're going to see a lot of missionary work. And what's also going to fuel this is Age of Exploration, which we have yet to discuss, and we will be discussing very soon, right? So you think about people like Christopher Columbus and Ferdinand Magellan, maybe you've heard those names. But when people start going around and exploring, and we find things like the Americas, it's an opportunity for the Catholic Church to convert more people, right, to get more followers. So that's going to be very important. So one of our earliest type of missionaries that came out this time period was Ignatius of Loyola, who began to convert people who were not already Christian. And we see, like I said already, European explorers going about and trying to spread the faith. Now, you did have Puritans who came to America, right? So that's how Christianity came to, like, places like, especially northeastern, America, in the colonies. Even though it's not Catholic. But if you think about a lot of, like, when we start to talk about the Age of Exploration, the first people who were going around exploring were the Portuguese and the Spanish. Okay, they had the whole game, basically, okay, before other countries like England and France got involved, right? Spain and Portugal were going around colonizing places, and they are Catholic countries, okay? So that's how Catholicism is going to spread outside of Europe. Now, some places where we see Christianity also become popular is it gets to places like the Philippines, right? Even to this day, majority of Filipinos are primarily Catholic, even though there is some Islam there, which is becoming more popular as of late, but a lot of Catholics. And the big reason why Christianity also worked in these places and Catholicism is because there was no literate faith. All right, and what I mean by that is Maybe they were just practicing ancestor worship or had some like local gods, but there's no like written faith that people were following in some of these places. More so like in the Americas, but you could argue the Philippines as well. So that's one reason why Christianity was going to become popular there. Sorry, just rechecking something. The hard thing with some faiths is that some people didn't want to give up their local gods. So Christianity obviously was sometimes forced upon some people. So like in the Americans, sometimes it was forced. Sometimes the Native Americans were able to make the connection between maybe their local gods and saints. Like especially you see that in Central and South America, right? They were able to take like their local gods that they believed in, and they start looking at Catholic saints. It's like, oh, it kind of feels similar. So they're able to make that connection. Now, the Europeans, when they came to the Americas, they did not have much respect for the local faiths here in America. They kind of just saw the violence, the sacrifice, animal sacrifice, human sacrifice sometimes, as pretty barbaric. And as a result, they destroyed usually local faiths, objects of faith, shrines, any type of religious imagery. They had a very negative reaction towards. Okay, so this is what I was saying with the saints. And, we talk about this idea of cultural diffusion, cultural syncretism, right? So the diffusion of the Catholic faith happened, right, as a result of exploration. But we do see cultural syncretism. So, for example, the people in the Americas, right, would take their practices of their local faiths, so practices of things like bloodletting or using like hallucinogenic drugs, and they kind of merged it with their practice of Christianity, right? So that would be the syncretism, right? Taking something of your faith, right, or ideas from your background and merging it with another one. And you create something new out of it as a result. If we look at Christianity going into Asia, it's not popular. Okay, so it worked in the Americas, it'll work in Africa. It's not going to work in Asia, especially China. And it's because China was a very powerful nation. They've been independent for a long period of time. They also had their own religious faiths there, whether it be Buddhism or Taoism, Confucianism, right? All those faiths worked very well in China and gave people enough spiritual fulfillment. And they didn't really need any other spiritual fulfillment. Now, the missionaries, they still attempted to go to China. They had gone to, basically they target people who are like Chinese elites, thinking that, if you convert the elites, right, you start with the top of the hierarchy, maybe it'll trickle its way down to the people. And didn't really do it saying like this is the best faith, but tried to almost negotiate in a way. They try to take interest in Chinese culture, right? So by them taking interest in their culture, maybe the Chinese would take an interest in European culture. They try to even make connections between Confucianism and Christianity. They try to downplay the whole thing, like the worship of ancestors, trying to make it like non-religious type of point. But it doesn't work. And again, it's because they are a spiritually fulfilled, as I mentioned, and Christianity is an all or nothing faith, right? If you're not going to believe that Jesus Christ, died for everyone's sins, right, and that type of thing, that you're not going to be able to practice this faith. Okay. Now we do have also blended forms, all right, or culturally syncretic forms of Christianity that takes place from Africa, right, or those who were African slaves who came to the Americas, and they took Christianity and they blended it with some of their own ideas of what happens when you die and ideas on Revelation. So that's how you get things like Santeria or Voodoo. It's taking this idea of Christianity and merging it with other religious practices and beliefs they already had. And that is it. All right, so that's wrapping up the Catholic Counter-Reformation, and also a little extra there. That's going to lead us into our discussions on the Age of Exploration. So good luck on your projects. Hope they come out great. You guys have been doing really awesome on the projects, so I really look forward to these. And any questions, again, obviously, email me sooner rather than later. Be good, guys.